Okay, so I've actually already finished creating this video on this technique, but I want to make a quick intro edit, if you will, because this whole set of two videos I'm making right now really are assuming we've got a hybrid that's already in the mouth, and now we've got to basically take an analog impression, or we've picked up our implants in the hybrid, and so then we've attached analogs and scanned that with these analogs sticking out. But here's the thing, you might not always have that. You might not have, a temp denture that you've done a pickup on. What if you're just uncovering this patient for the first time, and all you've got is some impressions of the patient ready to make a denture, or your hybrid, whatever it is, and you also know where the so you've got an edentulous arch. But you also have you have to find out where these housings are. So in your same impression, you could think of this hybrid here. Just forget the fact that there's teeth and just assume this was actually just the impression. You have some other way of determining the VDO, the occlusion. You've already done that as part of your sort of denture setup, but this right here is just an impression. So it's just got the analog sticking out of the impression. So everything I show you in this video, if you'll notice, it really doesn't matter about that this part has teeth on it. It could just as easily be, let me try something, plane cut. This whole object could be cut just like that and have no teeth on it, no record. I'm not going to do it because it won't clean that up. It'll look ugly. It'll be dumb. But I think hopefully you get the point that the teeth do not play any role in this. They don't contribute at all to what we're doing in this. The only thing I need is where these are, the bottom of this potentially, but really for this thing I just need these 6 pieces, these analogs sticking out, and then having this blank hybrid that I've created elsewhere, some other software, whatever. As long as the two of them are lined up, that's why, in a sense, the tissue portion is important of just like any impression, but really just the intaglio, the tissue portion, and the analog sticking out is the only thing that's important from this. So I can, create my hybrid right here, and we'll say blue sky plan, and then do the rest of what's shown in this video to make it so that it's got holes in it. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to let the rest of the video explain that process so that the holes are precisely placed, and hopefully this introduction helps to provide a little more clarity to the subject. All right, thanks so much. Okay, so in this video I'm going to show you how to take our we'll say this generic sort of denture thing that we've created here, however, and how we can digitally remove the holes that would be where our implants are, so that we can do what we call the Cal technique. So anyway, I've already done it in a previous video, and I did it with these the analogs and then these more traditional housings, which you can still do what I'm going to do here with this approach. But if you were to subtract, he's doing a Boolean subtraction of these from it, they're going to be ribbed holes like this, so you're not able to slide anything in and out. Plus, you're going to have like there's no offset. So it wouldn't really work if you combined it with it and made those holes like perfectly within this. That's great, but your alignment has to be perfect. So the Cal technique gives us some wiggle room so that we can get a passive fit. So anyway, let me show you how I would approach it if that was my goal. So let's hide these. First thing I'm going to do, I want to focus on how I would modify this object. So right now, in this current workflow, this outer shell, it would be basically would be built into your framework or metal framework or whatever. And then inside there's this little processing sleeve that just basically takes up space, and inside of that there's the actual same little Christmas tree looking housing. So effectively what I want is I'm going to make this part, this outer shell, part of my actual design, so I don't even need to worry about it. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the select button to double click on it, and I'm going to delete it. Don't need that, not at all. So now I'm going to do something a little different here. I'm going to come right on top of this it's a little bit going to be hard to see what I'm doing here. I'm going to make my selection tool a bit smaller so you can kind of focus in on what I'm doing. I'm going to click right on the rim of this right here. And I didn't mean to double click the whole thing. I am going to change the crease angle to be really thick, and I'm going to trace right around. All I'm doing, by the crease angle, it means if my selection tool falls off of it at more than such an angle, then it won't select, which means the inside and the outside, as you'll see, are not getting selected at all. Okay? So now you might wonder, well, why did he even bother doing that? Well, here's why. I'm going to hit the delete button, and I'm going to do that one more time right up here. This wasn't actually part of my plan, but I think, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that. A little bit tricky here. All this work I'm doing right here will hopefully be automatically done within the Blue Sky Plan software for us. But if you think you're going to do this multiple times and you want to be able to just have this on your own, do this one time, and what I'm showing you here, just go ahead and save the file. That way you don't even have to mess with this again. It's going to be pre-completed for you. I know what I'm doing looks tedious, and I'm certainly not going to do it 6 times per case. One time ever, no big deal. Now hit delete. Now you see how there's inside here, there's this shell. Oops. I'm going to highlight on that, double click, and delete. Okay. So now I'm going to come up here to Analyze, Inspector, and there's a couple holes in this object. Oops. Lost myself for a second there. Oh, it didn't delete everything. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and double click that, double click this, hit Y to separate those. I could have just done that in the beginning. Get rid of that. So if you see what I've just left, you know, I've still have. Here's what I've previously used. I just subtracted it from everything. So now all I've got is this housing. And I don't want anything on the inside here. Delete that. Now everything's gone. Okay, so now what I can do is I can come and close this end off. Close this end off. And so this thing is going to travel anywhere this analog goes. This is going to travel with it. This is going to create my space. Now here's one last thing I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the select tool. My crease angle is nice and high. I'm going to make this really big and select. Only just one click, because now it selects everything on top here. I didn't click on this other thing. This is a separate object. And I'm going to click Transform, the T button, and I'm just going to pull this way down, because this is going to make sure that I have a screw hole to access these. Hit accept. Okay, so now here is my new analog hole thing. Let's go ahead and reconnect these two things, combine them into one STL. And so now I can go about what I did in my previous video of aligning these, okay? So I'm going to go ahead, I'll do one, and then I will pause the video and do the rest on my own. So I'm going to press the N button, scribble a circle. Oops, I fell off the edge there. Do not do that. N. Draw a circle. Hold the Shift button. Draw a circle. Flip it over. And line it up as close as you can. Doesn't have to be perfect. That's what the whole Cal technique is going to allow us to do. Hit accept. Okay? And I'm going to pause the video. Alright, I have now finished. They are all lined up. let's hide this, and you can see here they all are. Okay, so now we can go ahead and we can combine them all because we don't want them to move, so there's no reason in having them separated. Click combine. And now we can go ahead and select, select, select. Hit Y. And so now we've got analog, I've got the same one up here, which is pretty much the same thing, but that's fine from my previous video. And so here's these housings. Now, one thing I didn't do, I should have done, but I'm going to show you how to fix it anyways. Oh, you know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to undo that because the problem is I still have the actual housing contained within this. Not a big deal, but I really don't want those in there. So I'm going to hit Control Z, and now they're no longer disconnected. I'm going to hit Control A because all these colors are going to make things a little hard for me. Control Shift G, and so now the colors are all gone. Why is this important? Well, because I can now select this part, because technically there's three components here. Here's the analog and housing inside of it, and then this outer processing sleeve that we created, or that was there but we modified, the spacer portion. Okay, so I'm going to hit Y to separate those out instead. And now hide. And so now I've got these. So if you're, let's go ahead and, yeah. So cal processing sleeves. So here's what I should have done. My oops. I should have extruded the bottom portion as well. Because when I turn on this blank hybrid, they don't perfectly stick out, which means my holes aren't quite all the way through. I could just, Boolean subtract it and then take my hand piece and cut it out, whatever. But it would be best if I went ahead and took care of that to begin with. So I apologize. I'm going to show you how I would do that. I'm going to turn, my crease angle is already up. Select here, T. You have to do this one at a time, because if you try to do all of them at the same time, it will, the distance at which the transform moves will be an average of all 6 of them. Hopefully that makes sense. And it doesn't take long to just do them real quick. But, like I said, had I done this at the beginning, it would have been faster. Could I re-record this video? I certainly could. Am I going to? No. This is me just thinking out loud and kind of showing you my thought process. If this is useful to you, awesome. If it's not, well, hopefully it was at least entertaining. Probably not. Okay, so now these are nice and extruded. I can bring in my hybrid blank, and so now I could do a Boolean subtraction, and I'm going to end up with holes that I can drop my sleeves right into. So I'm going to pause for just a second. Okay, sorry, I had to check on something. Now, here's one of the tricks that I've started using more and more, and the Boolean subtraction you can do in Mesh Mixer, but those of us that have tried know that it can be really frustrating, and it can take a while. So anymore, this amount of calculation I probably wouldn't do in Mesh Mixer. Instead, I would come over here and I would extract each of these, or export both of these, and open them up in 3D Builder. So I will go ahead and export them, and then I'll pick up in just a minute. And I'm going to pause for now. All right, basically I just created a folder so I wouldn't have to mess with hiding anything. So yeah, so I'm going to export. We're going to say the blank denture. You know, you may already have the file saved somewhere, but the problem is if you've moved it at all in Mesh Mixer, make sure you resave it. If not, then don't worry. But I'm going to pretend I have. Well, before I do that, notice that in here you could be looking and like, oh boy, this looks like it's going to be super thin right here. Okay, and you might notice that and you think, okay, well, I want to reinforce that. So I'm going to come to Sculpt. I'm going to grab my brushes and I'm going to grab the drag. I'm going to make this area really big with the bracket buttons and sort of drag it out and thicken it up a little bit. I'm not saying you have to do that, but it is an opportunity to sort of modify your design if you think, oh, well, you know, I thought that was well designed, but honestly, it's probably not going to be strong enough. Let's go ahead and bring it out here. Okay. Now, this is all assuming this already fits. You can do the Boolean subtraction from the model as well if it didn't fit, but honestly, if you designed it in Blue Sky Plan or whatnot, it's already meant to fit the tissue. We just need to make it fit the housings. So that's it. Just a little bit of adjustment there. And now I'm going to export. I'm going to call this the blank hybrid. And call this the cal cylinders. Okay, just a second, I'm going to pause and unpause. So I've got this folder right here. I'm going to open up 3D Builder. I'm going to ask for just a new scene. And so now I'm going to take both of these objects. You have to do them both at the same time. I'm going to drag and drop them. It will load them. And we need to tell them what units. Make sure you process this properly, otherwise it will screw you up later. So we're in millimeters. That's everything we've done so far is in millimeters. It's in dentistry. It's going to be millimeters. And click Import Models. Okay, so now all we have to do is click on these, just these. You notice if they're highlighted, but the denture itself is not highlighted, just the outline of these, and we're going to click Subtract. And there you have it. You now have your Boolean subtracted object. Okay, and now we can come here, we can hit Save As. Make sure that we have STL file format. Cal ready. And hit save. So here's one issue I have with 3D Builder, and there may be a way around this. I just haven't messed around with it to know. The problem is if I now bring this into Blue Sky Plan, it's not going to be in the right place. No. And so you'll see I don't know where. There it is. It's way over here. So I don't know yet how to preserve the coordinates. There may be a way. If anyone wants to let me know, I would really appreciate that. You could go in and realign them using Blue Sky Plan or something else, but hopefully you've waited till the very end to do this, and now you have something you could print, you could mill, ideally print, because we're talking about a cost saving. Well, I guess not ideally print. You could mill this and have a really nice final material, and you can go ahead and basically take your little sleeves, your multi-unit abutment, these housings, coat them in cement, drop them in there so they're loose fitting, insert it in the patient's mouth, screw them down, cure it, and now you've got a totally passive fit. These were just, they'll fit just loose in there. So yeah, you can see. Obviously, the path to draw, you couldn't just slide it over top, but you can pre-insert them. See how close I can get this alignment. Again, it exports however it wants, and it rotates it and does all sorts of funky things. But anyway, there you go. There's your Cal Technique processing approach that you could be using following this video. So anyway, hopefully that was fun. Hopefully that was interesting. Maybe you learned a trick or two here or there. So all right, thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.